My mother came from Lithuania when Russia invaded. She came to Ellis Island. We are an immigrant family. We have a beautiful family history. I'm a self-made billionaire. My father was an entrepreneur, been bankrupt. I love this country. I love America.
What was the founding story behind Jimmy John's?
The founding story was I graduated second to last in my high school class, and my dad, he wanted all his boys to go to the Army. So he went to the Army, fought the Korean War, got his degree on the GI Bill, went to U of I. My big brother, Greg, drove a personnel carrier. My little brother, Robbie, was a airborne ranger. And they're all fighters. And my dad thought it was a good thing to do. We were late bloomers physically and probably emotionally as well, the Leoto boys. I mean, we didn't grow until we were 18, 19 years old. We were the last shiny boys. And anyway, so my father thought it's go to the Army, grow up, and mature, and then go to college and figure it out. But I wasn't a fighter. My dad and my brothers were fighters. Every time I got in a fight, I got beat up, and I didn't like it. And I just was never a fighter. I just was not, and it just was not in my wheelhouse. And I was honestly afraid to go to the Army. I didn't want to go to the Army. And so my dad said, look, you can't live at home, and college is going to be tough. So he said, I'm going to lend you $25,000, and you can I want to open a Chicago street food hot dog stand. Anybody familiar with Portillo's hot dog stands in Chicago? I want to do a mini version of a Portillo's. And so really after a week, I graduated high school. In a week, I visited 25 hot dog stands. I had a list of equipment. And I found where the used equipment houses were in Chicago, and I went there. I'm 18 years old, and the best price I got in used equipment, Aaron, was $48,000, and I had 25. So I went to see my dad. I said, Dad, I need more money. And my dad said, no, it's $25,000. Randomly, I spent another week visiting hot dog stands, randomly went down to Southern Illinois University to meet a buddy and party for a weekend at Southern, and we went to the bars, and after the bars closed, we went to a little sandwich shop for some late night food, and they had a refrigerator and a meat slicer and a refrigerator, and that was it. And I came from fryers and steam tables and flat tops and grills and fire extinguishers and milkshake machines and all this equipment to a refrigerator and a meat slicer. I'm like, I can make a sandwich, and I can do it with $25,000. That was the story. I learned how to bake bread, and I opened my first store in January of '83. I was 19. I had 4 sandwiches on my menu: the original ham and cheese, the Italian, the tuna, and the turkey. And those were the 4 original sandwiches, and they're still on the menu today. I was in Dubai 2 days ago keynoting an international food service conference, and I visited our Jimmy John's stores in Dubai, and the 4 sandwiches are there, although the pork products are made out of beef, but they're there.
You said they're also opening how many venues in India?
We sold 1,000 Jimmy John Dunkin' Donuts combos in India, 600 in the Middle East, how many hundred I forget in South Korea, but it's crushing it. And the international the 4 stores in Dubai are crushing it.
In the research I did of the other interviews you had, you talked a lot about gratitude for mentors in your life.
Yes.
And the main and principal mentor in your life was your father. Seemed like a towering figure.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about sort of the legacy he had and the impact he had on your life growing up?
Yeah, my dad did something really, really, really he was really tough and he was really hard on me. But when I opened my store, we were bankrupt in '72, and I'm 61. So I'm a boomer, guys. So we were bankrupt in '72 and '76, and I left home in '82. Bankrupt means we drank powdered milk. Bankrupt means we're moving out of this apartment. We don't know. We're talking bankrupt. So I remember being poor. And when my dad came out of his bankruptcy in '76, he said, "I'll never have debt again." And when he lent me the $25,000 for the first Jimmy John's, he put it into a checkbook. It was called it was a checkbook. Checks are we used to write checks, and that's how we would transfer money back in the old days. You guys know what checks are, right? Okay, everybody knows what a check. So, but it was a ledger and then checks that had a carbon. So my dad told me to pay for everything COD. He said, if you pay for everything COD, you live in reality. And so what that did for me is I kept my bank balance every day. So whatever I wrote checks for, I put the money in the bank every day, and I kept my bank balance completely current every day. So I in a very short time, even though I did horrible in high school, I'm dyslexic, I can't read, but I'm really good with math. And I knew what made that bank balance go up and what made it go down, and I became an accountant by default. And I was really good at the numbers, Aaron. So I would say my father, the legacy was first he was a workaholic. He taught me to do the numbers, or to live in reality, And so it was a blessing and a curse because I'd never took any debt in 10 years. I moved to 10 different cities and opened up 10 stores and never got any debt. I saved up my money, replaced myself in the sub shop, and moved to a different city. And in year 10, my accountant in 1993, my accountant said, you made $1 million this year. I said, you mean I got $1 million in the bank? He said, you got $1 million in the bank. I said, well, I still smell like a salami. I'm still tired and whatever. So I'm a millionaire. Let's go. You know, it didn't honestly, when I was a millionaire, it didn't feel I was the same rotten salami guy, you know. And I was not a rotten salami guy. I was a kick-ass salami guy. But anyway, I'm grateful to my father for that. My father was a great patriot. He was a great man, and I miss him a lot.
I heard you say that your father motivated you because he told you the deal was basically you'd have to go to the Army, right?
Yeah.
If you didn't, and that you were motivated heavily by fear.
Yeah.
And so do you think that, like, would you want to visit that same kind of motivation on a younger generation, your kids, for instance, my kids, to make them as effective as you became, or is there another pathway to that, do you think?
You know what? That's a really good question. Is there another pathway? I was fight or flight, and I have imposter syndrome. And imposter syndrome is I wake up in the middle of the night and it's like, when is all this going to be taken away from me, and is this for real? I think that's genetic.
Yeah, because another thing I heard you say was that your dad told other people how proud he was of you.
He did.
But he never told you.
No.
So should I never tell my kids I'm proud of them?
No, you know, that's silly. That's silly. I tell them I love on my kids a lot. And, you know, that was a different generation. And I've got a lot of space for the way my parents raised me. Way more space now than I did 10 years ago. Because what I know is my parents and your parents, our parents, really have done the best they know how to do.
The other mentor you mentioned that I thought was fascinating was the bread factory guy in New York.
Yes.
Can you tell them a little bit about this story?
Yeah. So I'm in high school, and I'm working, and I was on the work program junior and senior year. And so I'm working noon to 5 during the week, and then Saturday from 8 to 12. And I was in customer service, and I knew every area code in the country in my head. We used telephones. As I'm researching bread dough, I'm at the grocery store, and I find a bag of frozen dough. It says Rich's Frozen Products, Poughkeepsie, New York, or Ithaca, New York, or whatever it was. So I threw it in my basket, and I go home, and I've been baking bread in my mom's kitchen. I thought my bread was really good. I had my bread nailed, and I grabbed this loaf just for the hell of it. So I brought the loaf home, and I thawed it, and I cut it into 4 pieces and stretched it out and baked it off, and it blew my bread away. It was incredible. And that's why I looked at Rich's Frozen Products, blah, 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 New York. So I dialed 212-555-1212. It's directory assistance. And I said, can I have the number of Rich's Frozen Products in Poughkeepsie, New York? And the directory lady gives me the number. I say, thank you very much. I call the phone number, and the phone rings. It says, Rich's Frozen Products, may I help you? I said, yeah, can I speak to Mr. Rich? She says, one moment, please. I'm like, oh, shit, okay. So he says, this is Bob Rich. And I said, hello, Mr. Rich. He says, yes, ma'am. I said, well, okay, I'll go with it. I said, Mr. Rich, I said, I'm opening a sandwich shop in Southern Illinois at Eastern Illinois University, and I want to use your bread dough. And he said, really? You want to use my bread dough? Where are you at again? He says, you're in Chicago? He said, I got a friend, Lou Ganella, who's a bread maker in Chicago that's building a frozen bread factory in Chicago right now. He says, give me your phone number. I'll call you back. I said, okay. I give him my phone number. He calls me back in 5 minutes. He says, what are you doing tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock? I said, let me check my schedule. I'm open. What's up? He said, go to Rich's, go to Ganella Frozen Products on Wiley Road in Schaumburg, Illinois, and go meet Lou Ganella, and he's going to meet you at 9 o'clock in the morning. So I go to Ganella. I drive my car there the next morning. It's like 30 minutes from my house. I go in. There's a small little office about as big as from the wall to here to here. There's a woman sitting behind a desk in like 3 chairs. It was an old school 50s office. And there's 2 hard hats. One says Lou and one says Jimmy John on it. Hard hats. So this old guy comes in and he says, you want to see some bread, right, kid? And I said, yeah, I do. He says, got to put the helmet on. We're put the hat on. We got some construction. We go through the construction. Take me through the original, to his original first startup dough factory, which we had to go through a little bit of a maze. And he says, here, we baked off 30 different breads for you. Let's eat some bread and see what you like. And so I ate a bunch of breads. I says, I like this bread pretty good. He says, well, good. He says, we'll make that bread for you. I said, that's great. He says, okay, man, see you later. I said, see you later. This is July of '82. I called him a month later And I said, I got my location. It's going to be at Eastern Illinois University. He says, you're really doing this? I said, I'm doing it. He said, really? I said, yeah, really. He says, call me a month before you're going to open. I said, all right. So I had my location. December, I called him. I was going to open in January. I said, I'm going to open. And he set me up at IFP, Illinois Fruit and Produce in Streeter, Illinois. He brought he brought the bread dough there, and that was my original Jimmy John bread dough. But this guy, Mr. Rich's Frozen Products, the story gets better. I became a Florida resident in 2005 when I started to make a lot of money, and I didn't want to pay Illinois taxes, lower taxes in Florida. So I became a Florida resident. I'm in my community in Key Largo. I'm in my community. This is about 5 years ago, and we fish down there. And after fishing, we go to a bar and have a beer and enjoy the day. And this guy says to me, he says, my name's Barnaby Rich, and we're in the frozen products business. Barnaby Rich, are you related to Bob Rich? He said, that's my grandpa. I said, let me tell you a story. He said, you're kidding me. No. And he said, that's the kind of guy my grandpa was. Somebody called him. That's exactly the guy. And our whole generation needs to hear the story. This guy, without this guy taking my call, I wouldn't be probably sitting on this stage. And what a great American to do that for me. And how about being able to tell his grandson? And the grandson was like 35 years old. So it was so cool to tell the kid about his grandpa. What a badass he was, man. Yeah.
And what a great lesson, too, to actually reach out to people and ask for help when you have a plan and you actually want to execute something. Because the fact that he was like, wait, you're really going to do this? Like, how many people approached him and went, I want to start a sandwich shop, and didn't follow through and didn't execute, right?
Oh, for sure.
So that was what he was asking you.
For sure.
At this university, University of Austin's uniquely pro-Western and pro-American. It's a very patriotic institution. You are a patriot. You love this country.
Yeah.
What makes a great American entrepreneur?
The great entrepreneurs are just anybody that's willing to go be uncomfortable. I mean, if you're willing just to go be uncomfortable for longer periods of time than your competitors are willing to be uncomfortable, and your product is decent, and you work really, really hard, and you know your numbers, you're going to do it. But, are we great? I don't know that I'm that great, but man, I made a lot of great bucks. But I'm a decent dude, you know. But I have a hard time with too great. You know, like I love our president, but he thinks he's pretty great. But I think he's a great president. But I was his 11th largest individual donor, and he didn't invite me to the inauguration. So, but I did call him the other day, and he picked up the phone at 7 o'clock in the morning, which is, Jimmy, it's your favorite president. And I called him, but he did pick up the phone. But, you know, what makes a great entrepreneur? You know what? Create something like Joe did, like you're doing. Create something and go do it. And America needs, this is what America was built on, but we all play a role in it, you know? Us entrepreneurs play a role, but our support teams play a role. But you gotta have the crust to make the pizza.
When did you know that Jimmy John's was gonna work? Did you have a moment, or were you just so immersed in the everyday grind that you had no clue what was going on?
Aaron, the first year we did $150,000 in sales and made $40,000 profit, and we split it, my dad and I. And the second year I did $180,000, made like $55,000, and we split it. And then halfway through year 3, I bought my father out for the original investment, 10% interest, compounded. I learned what compound interest was. He laid that on me at the end. Anyway, I had the cash, so I paid him cash because I saved my cash. And then I moved to Macomb, Illinois. And that one worked, and I moved to University of Illinois and opened one there. I moved to Carbondale. I moved to West Lafayette, to Purdue. I moved to Ann Arbor. I moved to East Lansing. Moved to Bloomington, Illinois. It worked. And like I said, I built 10 stores in 10 years. I had no debt, and I was making $1 million a year after '93. So then people were calling me to want to franchise it. So '93 to '03, we built 200 franchises during that time period. And I stayed and ran the company stores, and we built that to 25 stores. This is a relevant story, and I want to share it. So I ran the company stores because I joined Young Presidents Organization, YPO. You guys will hear that in your journeys of life. And YPO taught me that the entrepreneur needs to hire professionals to run the company once it starts. So I hired some professionals to run the franchise company, and the dummies, me, ran the operating company, our own company stores. So from '93 to '03, I built 15 more company stores, but then I had 25 company stores, and my 25 company stores were making me $4.5 million a year. And my sales were going like this. In 2003, I had 200 franchises, and 70 were failing. Oh, wow. And I was in denial. I wasn't paying attention. I just like getting that mailbox money. They just paid us every month. They paid us 6% off the top. You get a license fee. Does that make sense? License fee? And I like the license fee because I didn't have to stick the key in the door. And I've been sticking the key in the door for 20 years. I was tired of milking the cow. Okay? So anyway, in 2003, the current president of Jimmy John's was with me 3 years. He said, we got to stop selling franchises, and we got to turn around those 70 stores. And if we don't do it, we're not going to have anything to sell. So we went into the stores. They had three things in common they weren't doing. Number one, they weren't following Jimmy John's systems and procedures. Number two, the bread wasn't perfect. Number three, there was no sense of urgency. All the restaurants had those three things in common. Once they put systems and procedures in place, got the bread right, added some sense of urgency, everything just turned around. And literally, we, in 15 months, myself and James North, who's the CEO of Jimmy, or the brand president of Jimmy John's now, we went to every location, one at a time, pulled the equipment away from the walls, cleaned the floors, cleaned the ceilings, cleaned the air ducts, cleaned the bugs out of wherever the bugs were in the light bulb fixtures, cleaned the bathrooms, replaced cutting boards, blew out the compressors, made the places shiny again, reorganized the back rooms, started with systems and procedures. And after we did about 10 stores and got them turned around, word on the street was, Jimmy and James are coming to your store, and it's going to be good. And so we turned around those stores. It took us 18 months to turn them around. And once we got those stores turned around, our company stores were producing cash. I remember I have no debt and I own it all. I've got a little cabin in Wisconsin, a little house. I got married late. And my kids were 3 and 2, and I adopted a 4-year-old that came with my wife Leslie. So I had 3 children, and I just had those children. I had to go back out on the road again for 15 months. And I never was going to go on the road ever again. I've been on the road for 20 years, and that's enough Holiday Inn miles for me. I changed the training program in Champaign, Illinois. I took it from a week to 3 weeks, and when you came to buy a franchise, you came into my office, and I said, this is the worst decision you're ever going to make. It's 24/7, 365. It's Sundays, it's nights, it's weekends, it's no weddings and no funerals. You keep the bodies frozen, and you bury them when you can. And that's just an analogy. We didn't really do that. But this is like cattle. You got to feed cattle on Christmas Day. This is a serious lifestyle. And I started telling people, no, Aaron. I started telling people, don't buy this. And what happened when you tell people they don't buy it?
They're going to want to buy it.
They want to buy it. And I'm like, shit, I'm really telling them the truth. Don't buy it. I mean, this is really, really hard. And it is really, really hard. It's a really uncomfortable business. But if you're willing to do it, it spits money at you. If you're not, if you try to manipulate it, you can't. It's like life. If you take it seriously, it works, and if you don't, it doesn't. But so anyway, so once we turned around, I started telling people the truth about the business, and so the last 10 years, we opened 2,500 stores. So, 10 years, 10 stores, 20 years, 200 stores, the 30 years, we opened 2,500 more.
So it was about setting expectations.
Yes.
Did you have to actually, what kind of criteria, too, did you add to that setting of expectations to make sure you were selling to the right type of person?
So my original criteria was pulse and check. That didn't work. Got the wrong people.
Right.
Literally, I would meet them at the front door. I'd meet them outside in front of the office. I literally would go look inside their car and see how well they kept their car, if their car was clean. I needed to see fire in them, that they really were passionate. They loved the Jimmy John's brand, because the Jimmy John's brand wasn't well known. It could be a pencil shop. It could be a luggage store. What the hell is Jimmy John's? It's a horrible name. At least Jersey Mike's East Coast Sub sounds, but Jimmy John's, what is it? So I needed the passion in the people. If they were going to take it to Keokuk, Iowa, or Provo, Utah, I needed them to really believe in the brand and understand this. That we had a direct sampling program from the store, just sampling a very disciplined, organized way that we sampled the product manually out every day to the public. And if you didn't know it and you didn't love it, you wouldn't do that. It's really, really hard to do. You got to love cattle to be in the cattle business. So it's a lot of hours, and it's really, really hard, but it works.
You sold your company after 33 years, which is...
After 38 years.
Oh, even crazier. Okay, 38 years, which is actually insane. One, how did you have the motivation to be in it that long? And then two, how did you come to the realization that you knew it was time to get out?
Two things. I really, really love helping people win. Like, if I had a franchisee that wanted help from me and they were going to really want help from me and really listen, I would go move in with them and go until they were ripping. I mean, I was all in them. That's what drove me. The bucks, I already had the bucks. It just drove me to help people win. So I was just driven to help people win, and what was going on. Here's one for you: freaky fast delivery. Right? We're delivering 1 million. Well, we're selling 1 million customers a day. 40% was delivery, so 400,000 deliveries a day. Right? You're going to get in accidents. Well, when everything we were doing was freaky fast, when I would go to court in a court case, no matter what, I was found guilty because no matter what, it was my fault. But I'm going to tell you all how Jimmy John's was freaky fast. This is a great story, and you need to hear it. After we turned around those stores, I told you the story where we went and did it and turned our stores and then started telling people the truth about the franchise. I had a marketing guy that said we want to do consumer surveys, and those consumer surveys are going to teach you how the consumer perceives Jimmy John's. So I said, all right, but I already know. He says, yeah, what do you know? I said, they know that our product is great. We use Hellmann's mayonnaise. We make everything fresh. I'm arrogant. I believe that all the consumers know what we do. But I'll do it for you. He said, okay, great, do it for me. So I'm ready to so it's sandwich eating consumers, 2 age groups, 18 to 34, 34 to 52, two groups. There are like 16 people in each group. We're behind one-way glass, and they eat Potbelly and Jersey Mike and Jimmy John's, da-da-da-da-da. So they asked the question, quality and freshness, Subway 0 to 10, what's the score? And Subway got a 6, and I was shocked. This is 20 years ago, just 20 years ago. So I was shocked they got a 6, and I was ready to get my 10, 0 to 10. I was ready to get a 10, and Jimmy John's was a 7. I was devastated. I said, we'll get the old people in here, the 34 to 52s. They know what quality is. Same quality and freshness, Subway 6, Jimmy John's 7. I couldn't even hear what the other questions were in these consumer surveys. I walk out of the Chicago Consumer Survey. I said, this is bullshit. I said, in Michigan, our average unit volumes are $100,000 higher, Generation 2 franchisees, better trained, better locations. I own the stores at Michigan State. I own the stores in Ann Arbor. Our volumes crush it, and the guy in between, who's the franchisee, does a really, really good job. We'll go to Detroit in January, and I'll show you guys what the deal is. By the way, don't go to Detroit in January, in case you guys were thinking about doing that. I go to Detroit in January, same setup, same consumer company, same 18 to 34, Subway 6, Jimmy John's 7. Older group, 6 and 7. I'm now freaking out because I just came off the road. I'm just like, it's got everything turned around. We're making $6-7 million a year in profit. Everything's going good. I said, we're going to do it in Champaign, Illinois, where I live and where I'm the sandwich mafia. And I'm going to show you the scores, and we're going to do this in Champaign, Illinois. They said, well, we're not set up to do it in Champaign, Illinois. I said, build it. I'll pay for it. We're doing it. And you'll see okay. So they built it in a Holiday Inn ballroom. They built a box with a mirror, and they figured it out, and I paid for it. Anyway, Subway 6, Jimmy John 7, both groups. I'm completely crushed, no clue what to do. They asked a question in all 3 cities. If Jimmy John's was a car, what would it be? It was Ferrari Corvette, Camaro. It was always fast. If Subway was a car, what would it be? And it was always Ford Tempo or Cavalier or Prius, some boring car, right? Now, Prius is fine, but Corvettes are funner. So I'm sitting here thinking, Subway got a 6. They're spending $300 million a year telling American consumers that they're fresh. I'm not doing $300 million a year in sales. The consumers all told us we were fast. So this is the most radical entrepreneur idea thing that I ever came up with. Now, this is mid-2004. I called James, the guy that turned around those stores with me, and I said, James, here's what we're going to... So if you ordered a sandwich for delivery at 11 o'clock, it's 15 minutes. 11:30, 30 minutes. 12 o'clock, maybe an hour and 10. At 12:30, hour and 15. And then 12:45, the time. So the bell curve was like that. The sandwiches took longer to deliver from 11:50 to 12:40. Does that make sense to you? Because that's when everybody's calling. So I decided I'm going to take my delivery area and shrink it, and do a 5-minute drive time during peak traffic, and have a policy that the order is out the door in under 4. Out the door, that means order in, made, and out the door in under 4 minutes. 5-minute drive time. A driver could take 3 orders. in one run, be back in 22 minutes. He could do 6 runs or 9 runs an hour. They made $5 in tips an hour. My drivers were making, every time they hit a customer, they made about $5. So my drivers made more money than anybody else, but we shrunk the delivery areas. And what happened with the numbers, first of all, the repeat business tripled. People started using our business because we were so consistently 15 minutes. And sales in our company stores were up that year 24% rise in same-store sales versus the franchises that were flat. And we had a franchise convention that January, and we showed them our numbers at our company stores, and our volumes were twice theirs anyway, and then we just had this huge jump. And I had a room less than people. I probably had 30 people in the room at the time that we had this meeting. And I said, I need all of you in the room to sign this power of attorney that lets me control your delivery area. Once you all sign this power of attorney and this change in the contract, then I'll tell you the secret of how I did what I did. Believe it or not, we got everybody in the room to sign it. And then I got up on stage like this, and I'm looking at you, and I'm talking to you. I'm saying, okay, here's what I'm going to do. You got 3 stores. I'm shrinking your delivery area in half. These people were so pissed at me. They were screaming and yelling. They thought I completely scammed them. Like literally thought I was taking bread from them. And in 3 years, our average unit volumes went from $450,000 to $900,000 in 3 years. It was the greatest thing we ever did. So we weren't freaky fast because we got there. We got there because our delivery areas were so small. Because of the consumer surveys, they said we're going to be a Corvette. I said we're going to be a Corvette. If they say we're fast, we're going to be fast. That's how that all came about. I just think it's fascinating because I was paying attention, and then I just had an entrepreneur aha moment and did it and just went for it, and it worked.
And then the marketing idea of Freaky Fast, that was also your idea.
Yeah.
So you've been doing a lot, like you did marketing really early on in the business's history as well, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell them a little bit about this? Because that's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, well, what I would do is I learned I had no money. So if I placed an ad, I always wanted the ad to grab their attention. So I remember I wrote an ad. The headline was "Party" with an exclamation point. It said, "You plan it, you love it, you can't wait till it starts. It's dancing, romance, and the time to depart. But alas, you just met a cutie that says you're a beauty. If that is your fate, it's never too late to impress that new love with a Jimmy John's sub." But it was "Party, Jimmy John's, we deliver," and all that bullshit in between. And I'd save up my money and run an ad. And so that would be an example of one of the ads that I wrote. So that was one of my first ones. I remember I wrote an ad that said, "All restaurants in Charleston closing after eating at Jimmy John's." And the headline was, "All restaurants in Charleston closing." I was a bit of a smart ass, and it was fun.
Did you just explain how it is that you got to decide that you did want to sell?
Yes. Here's why I want to sell. I was in court all the time. And I love doing this. I love coming to Austin. I love sharing life story with you and sharing with you young people the future of our America right here, right now. I like helping people win. And I was in court all the time. And I'm a bit emotionally. I'm passionate. My father came from where he came from. My mother came from Lithuania when Russia invaded. She came to Ellis Island. We are an immigrant family. We have a beautiful family history. I'm a self-made billionaire. My father was an entrepreneur, been bankrupt. I love this country. I love America. And when the unintended consequences of the labor laws, when the labor laws were changed under the leadership of President Obama, he just didn't know what the consequences were to small business when you overregulate small business. I was telling Aaron, I was in Dubai last week, and I couldn't believe the number of stores they're selling internationally. I went to Dubai and visited. We have 4 stores open in Dubai, and the stores are beautiful stores. The beautiful tile, they branded them beautifully. I said, how much do these stores cost? In America, Jimmy John's is $500,000, $150,000 to open a store in Dubai. $150,000. Instead of tile this thick, they got ceramic tile just enough to cover the wall so you can scrub it and clean it. You don't need 1/2-inch steel when 1/16-inch steel is all you need for the job. But in America, we just over-regulated and just screwed it all up. Every single one of the Jimmy John's was in a shopping center. A lot of food restaurants in these sort of shopping centers were the Jimmy John's, where there was not a freestanding one. There's only 4. But every shopping center had a central bathroom and bathing, sinks and bathrooms, so that every restaurant didn't need to have handicapped bathrooms. It's just the cost of that's $150,000 alone, not having 2 handicapped bathrooms. So it's just they think about stuff like it's great access to the bathrooms. They're just right over there. So they're just so smart with how they're doing it. And then in the labor, here in America, it's 35% of sales, and there it's 9% of sales. So when cost of goods is 20, so your gross margin is 65% instead of 45%. The margins in international are incredible. I mean, Jimmy John's has 1,000 units going into India and 600 in the Middle East, and they're just getting started.
For America to win, we have to change that. We have to change that.
We have to.
So you have this quote. A couple more questions, and we'll turn it over to the Q&A.
Sure.
That I found online, which you said, "Good wine is wine you like. You like it or you don't.
Yeah.
Take that about life." And so I love this quote because I've been thinking a lot about mimetic desire, which is this idea that our preferences are based on other people's preferences.
Yes.
And it's a superpower if you figure out how not to be that way.
Yes.
Right? What is it that, give me an example of something you like that is completely not something that everyone else likes, and vice versa.
What he's referring to is, I married Leslie in 1998. She was 23, I was 33. And we were drinking Chardonnay. And we discovered this Merlot called Duckhorn Merlot, which is just a Merlot. It's a red wine. And it was like we discovered something that was unbelievable. So we wanted to take a wine class. So we took a wine class. I don't wear suits. I'm not a fancy guy. We went to the Chicago Club. We paid $300. We go to this wine class. And we're there, and I'm nervous. And we're going to learn about good wine. And the wine instructor says, "Okay, you guys ready to learn about good wine?" And we're all, yeah. He says, "Okay, great. Y'all paid me $300 each." We said, "Yeah." He says, "Great. Good wine is wine you like. Class over." What do you mean? He says, "If you like it, it's good wine. And if you don't, it's not." I said, "That's it?" He says, "That's it." He said, "I got 100 bottles of wine. Let's drink it. See what you like. That's it." I'm like, awesome. He said, everything's earthy and Tony and vanilla and cherry and all that. It was so great because I wish I would have learned the beauty and that wisdom now because of what we have with social media, right? Like you're saying, this is the kind of car that's cool, this kind of watch that's cool, but it's what you like is cool. I like liverwurst, onion, and mayonnaise on rye bread. It's my favorite sandwich, and my breath is awful after it. But I love that sandwich, and you know what? And I like extra onions on my lox and bagel too, and I'm going to keep doing it. I don't care. So live the life you like, marry the person you like, be who you like, but kick ass as long as you're doing what you like. But just kick ass while you're doing what you like,
That was awesome. So last question before we open it up. You're building an awesome new venue literally right across the street at the post office a block away. Who are your partners, and what's your vision for the city, and why Austin?
So my partner that you would know, Justin Timberlake. He's a third partner, and Sam Fox is the proprietor. And Sam Fox's brands in Austin. Culinary Dropout, True Food, Flower Child, the Henry.
A legend in hospitality.
A legend in hospitality. He's just a legend. So Sam is my best friend. Sam lives in Phoenix. He's a Chicago kid. Chicago old man, Chicago kid for 61. I keep forgetting that. I do. But anyway, so Sam's my best buddy, and we opened up a massive 50,000 square foot restaurant, 3 stories in Nashville 5 years ago, right when COVID started, and we just crushed it. So we're putting one in the post office here. It'll be a 1230 Club. You can Google the 1230 Club and look it up. And Sam Fox is a legend in the industry. Justin is wonderful, and he gave me a great piece of advice when I first started hanging with him. I asked him, I said, "You have so much stuff thrown at you. How do you filter it?" He said, "It's really easy. I'm listening." He says, "And I just listen long enough because eventually people will let you know who they are. Just give them time. Be patient. They'll let you know who they are." He says, I've learned to be really patient, and you guys are really good. And anyway, I just for the future, just chill. People will let you know who they are. If you're wondering, they'll let you know, right? I gave the Heimlich. You're like, "Thanks, Jimmy. Nice guy, jolly guy."
It wasn't thanks, jolly guy. I was like, no, he's very serious about me knowing the Heimlich right now.
I was serious about it.
And you were like upset that I didn't, and I was like, oh, he really cares that my family's safe, and this is the moment that he's going to teach us. Let's open this up for a Q&A.
Okay, so it seems like what's very important to you is that you find what's important for, say, the success of your business, because you call yourself a simple guy, right? So you find what's important for the success of your business, and then you chase after that as hard as you can. How do you know what's important?
When you do the homework, the answers are obvious. But you got to do the homework, and then you don't have to worry about what's important and what's not important. So that's what you do. First, you do your homework, and then it's pretty simple. And when the answers are obvious, you chase it. And even if the obvious answer didn't work, be ready to pivot and pivot quickly. Me having the guts to squish my delivery areas and then lay that all on my franchisees, right? That was a baller move, and I didn't know it at the time, but that was probably the most pivotal move in the history of Jimmy John's. But the answer to your question is, when the homework is done, you don't have to wonder anymore. And there's going to be different answers for different businesses and different situations. But once you've done all the homework, you visit. Like if you're going to go into the real estate business, go visit 1,000 locations, and pretty soon you're going to start to see what works better, what flows better, where medians get in the way, where they don't get in the way, how far away from a corner you can be or want to be or whatever. But if you visit, I just put a new office in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm under construction right now, moving my family office from Illinois to Nashville. I personally went and visited every available office in Nashville, Tennessee. So when I bought the acre that I bought in Cool Springs, I knew everything that was available. So it wasn't a mystery to me. I did the homework.
Yeah, it sounds like what you're saying is, as long as if you have the interest and you put enough time into it, the right answers could come out.
For sure. Absolutely. And then throw some hard work in there, because if they are the wrong answers, you're going to have to catch up. And, but there's not a silver bullet. I wish there was.
What's the secret for your energy? I feel like I have 1/10 as much energy as you have.
I just get excited to be around young people. They have 40 years in front of them. I'm the guy that claps in between everybody else at the stadium.
Thank you for spending this evening with us.
My pleasure.
I'm curious, how do you see your personal entrepreneurial journey compared to the modern, young person of today, their journey in entrepreneurship, where it now seems like everyone kind of wants to be in entrepreneurship by default, and that's if you're ambitious, that's what you do, whereas maybe when you were doing it, it was more of an outlier.
Yeah. I don't know that I can answer the question, but look at what's been created here in Austin. I mean, look at what Joe Lonsdale has done, and look at what Elon has done, right? And I mean, those guys are the mega heroes. But everything. This is America. This is the land. This is the free market, and you can do it if you want to do it. You can do it. I mean, get on the train. I bought a coffee company after Jimmy John's and built it and sold it to Blackstone a year ago. And I did in 4 years with 7 Brew Coffee what I did in 38 years at Jimmy John's. And so, you can do it if you want to do it. Just do it. And if it doesn't work, go do something else. And if that doesn't work, do something else and just keep doing it, but there's no answer. I mean, just the answer is don't quit, right? Just keep ripping. You can do it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Nathan. Thank you so much for the story. It's very inspiring.
My pleasure, Nathan.
So I was wondering, how do you manage to be organized when you're doing business? Because it's like a sandwich shop, right? For you, it's a sandwich shop, and it seems quite simple, right?
Yes.
It's not tech. It's not some other thing.
Yeah,
But there's much more underlying to that. It's not that simple.
that's correct. All right, so it started out when I was going from the first sub shop to the second sub shop. I started writing down and I was doing the bank book, and I watched what made the bank book go up and what made it go down every day, right? So I was keen to the numbers. And then I also knew how to open up the restaurant and in what order, what steps to do and in what order. So I had a college girl that worked for me, and she typed, and I would write in my notebook the process procedure for opening the sub shop, and she would hand type it for me. So it began from how to open the sub shop to how to close the sub shop to how to change the shifts, and then to how to set up for the lunch rush, how to prep for the lunch rush, how to plan for the lunch rush, cleaning up after the lunch rush, prep before dinner, what to prep, how to change shifts, and all that stuff was systemized and organized. Everything from the cleaning supplies, where you stored them, where they sat, how many rags sat there, how many gloves sat there, in what order and where they were located. Everything at Jimmy John's was precisionally placed exactly where it needed to be. Those shelves that displayed the food out front, all those shelves that was actual inventory. We actually used, those were not display shelves showing fake olive oil cans. Those were all shelves because we rented small spaces, we did big volumes, paid low rents, and made high returns. So we had to cram shit into wherever we could, and we did that because we figured it out, because we paid some rents that were too high, so we started shrinking the box as much as we could to cram it in there to increase our success. So, and then from there, when I started making a lot of money, I bought farms and gold and bonds. Those are the 3 things I invested in when I started making more money than I could consume. And I started to learn about soybeans and growing corn and soybeans. And so I was the largest user of Hellmann's mayonnaise in the world. And so I said to Hellmann's mayonnaise, I said, what if I just lock in futures? What if I just lock in and I'll lock in futures, I'll take the risk on the soybean oil. You guys take your adder and all your ingredients and your manufacturing add-on. I said, then I'll take the risk, which is 80% of the cost of the Hellmann's mayonnaise. So I would walk my own soybean fields, and I could tell 2 weeks before harvest what was going on. I knew if it was going to be a high yield year or a low yield year per acre of the soybeans. I just bust open the pods and look at them in the different rain zones that I grew soybeans in. So I knew if the pods were light and the pods and the beans were small, that soybean oil prices were going to be going through the roof. And I knew if the pods were full that soybean oil prices were coming down. So, and I was 2 weeks ahead of the markets just by walking my own soybean field. So I was locking in the soybean oil. I was selling the mayonnaise to my franchisees for $32 for a 4 gallon case. I was making $7 back on it, and they could go to Sam's Club and buy it for $55. So as long as the price that I sold the stuff to them was less than they could buy it at Sam's Club, and they perceived that I brought them value, my franchisees championed me making money off of the food supply. In addition to that, when you're a franchisor, you have to disclose third-party revenue from any other third-party related businesses. Every year you have to disclose it in your federal disclosure document. So, I mean, when we sold, $60 million came from the back end, from the food purchasing side, all with I started doing it with the pork bellies, with the hams, with the turkeys, and I'll give you another one, potato chips. When we ship potato chips, we're shipping air, okay? And so when you fill a semi with potato chips, we had about an extra foot of space in the entire semi. So I redesigned my potato chip bag and redesigned my potato chip box to lift that chip pallet up to where it was about 4 inches from the roof of the semi, so I could capture all that shipping space. So we were just picking up cents wherever we could pick up cents, picking up pennies. So then I was buying potato futures and peanut oil because we fried those in peanut oil, and I was buying the petroleum bags, and I was buying the corrugated, and then I was managing all the logistics and the shipping, and I controlled the label on all the food. So there was a lot more to Jimmy John's than 6 meats, 1 cheese, 2 breads.
But by the way, that level of attention to detail, that insane focus is not just this business. It's any successful entrepreneur. There are a lot of actual successful entrepreneurs in this room right now that have that level of dedication and intensity to detail in their respective businesses. John Lonsdale sitting over here, he's the CEO of Vendor. Carlos obviously has a lot of experience doing what he's been doing. If you talk to them about their respective businesses, they're going to go into that intense amount of detail.
Yeah, and then the pay and the compensation, and then yeah, it's there's layers and layers and layers and layers. That's why they paid us 24 times for it, because it was pretty good.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Patrick. I talked with you over there.
Yeah.
The first time I went to Jimmy John's was like 2 weeks ago with a friend of mine, and I was like, I'm gonna try this place out because I used to like Subway, right? And then I tried Jersey Mike's. I was like, oh, this is better. And then I went to Jimmy John's, and I was like, okay, well, let me try it out. And I ordered the ultimate Italian, right? And I was eating it, and I was enjoying it, and then it dawned on me, like, well, Jimmy John is going to my school.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you a really, really difficult question. I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this, but what's your favorite item on the menu?
Yeah, you can ask that. You know what? I really, really like the East Coast Italian that you like. I really like that sandwich a lot. I really like the turkey tom, but I liked it more when we had Sprouts. And we don't have Sprouts on the menu anymore because apparently we were killing people with Sprouts. And but anyway, I really like the turkey tom with Sprouts, but I like that Italian sandwich too.
So would you recommend that I get that next time I go?
You know what? Get it. Go to the store, buy some Sprouts, get a turkey tom, put cheese on it, put some Sprouts on it, hammer that, and DM me and tell me how it was.
All right, I'll let you know.
All right.
What would you say the freshness was? Was it around a 7?
Oh my God, the sandwich was. So you know how a lot of like sub sandwiches are kind of like airy, like it feels like you're eating water and air and maybe a piece of ham. I don't know. It sounded like an advertisement. I was not paid. The Jimmy John sandwich was so it was robust and it just had substance, right?
Right
so
on.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Will.
Hey, Will.
So I've heard from some other entrepreneurs, people who've built a brand from scratch,
Yeah.
such as yourself, who've been very critical, like they don't like when business grads fresh out of college really tell them how they should be running their business because they haven't had a chance to really prove themselves. So do you think is it worth it to get an MBA or anything like that?
Yeah, for sure, it's worth it to get an MBA. Well, 100% it is worth it to get an MBA. But when you're giving advice and we want to be, we want to grow our relationship and build our relationship. It's really like I could should you to death about shit that I don't know anything about, but I will only talk to peers like Aaron or I will talk to you. I will only do a shared experience. This happened to me. I will not if it's never happened to me. I would never, ever give you an opinion just because I am so sick of opinionated people that haven't done shit. I don't like it. So I will only share with you when I drove my car and I hit a bicyclist, here's what I did. If I never hit a bicyclist and you hit a bicyclist, I would say I'm really sorry and that's sad. But I don't give people advice of shit I didn't do. And we just shouldn't do that. But if you intellectually have a good idea, I think every great entrepreneur has a great filter, and it's up to them whether they want to use it or not. And that's the beauty of the free market, right? So I don't think that people don't want to not hear about an MBA. And I think MBAs are fantastic. Hell yeah, teach you how to work, teach you discipline, teach you to be creative, teach you different ways to get around obstacles, teach you fancy words that I don't know. I use swear words instead. I wish I had some fancier words, but I'm not educated. So I'm not anti anything. I'm into whatever you got to do to make yourself rock. That's what I'm into.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, I'm Nate. I was wondering, what's a habit that you wished you developed when you were younger?
Working out, exercise, diet. Struggle with this my whole life. I've been heavy my whole life, and it is awful. And I wish I had a massive physical at Vanderbilt a year ago. And actually it was less than a year, it was about 8 months ago. So I'm 10 minutes and 45 seconds on the treadmill, and my doctor says, wow, can you keep going? He says, at 9 minutes, 30 seconds, you don't really need another one of these for 5 years, and you're at 10 minutes, 45 seconds. And he said, I'm looking at your numbers, you're not on any statins, take no medicine. And so we sit down, we finish the whole physical, we review all the numbers. I have a calcium score of 0. That means I don't have any clogged arteries. It's genetics. He said, everything's great. He said, except you weigh 310 pounds, and there's not a lot of 310-pound 80-year-old men, so get your ass to work. And I said, so I'm paying you for this? He said, yep, that's right. He said, maybe go to church a little bit too. And but in any case, I wish I would have developed more discipline in that arena. But you know what? We all have stuff. Everybody in this room's got something they wish was a little bit different, personal, and that's what I wish that I would have done earlier than I'm doing now. Now I'm very disciplined, and I've been working really hard on this part of my life.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Jamie. My name's Peter. I had a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned that to get ahead of the competition, you have to do uncomfortable things. And what maybe was the most uncomfortable thing you've done in your career?
I'll tell you the first one. I worked I had two friends. Basically, I was alone in my first sub shop, and I learned to work 8 to 2 in the morning, 7 days a week, and I learned how to do it. And I worked that way for about 11 months. It was December of '83. And I finally got a replacement. I hired a guy named Tyler Funk to be my manager. And I drove from Charleston, Illinois, 553 miles north to my cabin in Wisconsin. I got to my cabin in Wisconsin, and the store called the phone up there and said so-and-so didn't show up for the night shift. I had to turn around and drive back down to Charleston, Illinois, right when I got to my cabin. That was my first reality of what this thing was, okay? And when you're open 7 days a week, and you're in 10 different cities, I was doing a lot of bouncing, a lot of driving, and a lot of travel, living in a lot of Holiday Inns, and it's just very, very uncomfortable. I didn't have nights or weekends until I was 40, So I just gave up from 18 to 40, just working, being at the sub shop when people didn't want to be. So I'm not a victim. I was really happy to be there, and I'm really happy that I did what I did because I get to do what I do now, right? So it just what my first one was the one where turn over and it just continues to. But you survive and you maneuver through. People don't show up, deliveries don't show up. I remember I sold a sub shop in Guatemala to Edwin Escobar in like 1997, and I came out of Guatemala and all I wanted was the check. I just wanted the $100,000 check for the franchise sale. I wasn't leaving Guatemala. I left there with the check. And then we had a problem with bread dough down there, and then we airshipped bread dough, Jimmy John's bread dough, to Guatemala, and they left it on the tarmac, and it's in frozen sticks of 40 10-ounce loaves in a box. And anyway, the stuff thawed and rose on the tarmac, and they looked like those big helium balloons that people hang under, and they float across the sky on the tarmac. These giant bread bubbles of bread dough on the parking lot, on the airport in Guatemala City. So I mean, I've seen it all. I've had pistols in my face. I've been robbed. I've just been through it all. But it's all part of the game. Look, I survived. Here I am. I made it. I'm here with you. So it's all good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Guys, we unfortunately we'll take one more question. Oh, okay. We'll take two more questions, then we have to wrap it up.
Hi, Jimmy.
Hi.
I have a very similar question. So
Yeah.
over your 38-year-long entrepreneurial journey,
Yeah.
what was your hardest week? And then what got you through that week? Because I'd imagine after a while, your dad sending you off to the Army wasn't the biggest compelling reason.
It wasn't situational. It wasn't like a thing. It was, let me think about what was really just freaked me out. Like, I'll tell you, I got one that freaked me out. Here's one. This is like 2010-ish, don't quote me on it. One of our delivery drivers was at a stoplight in Las Vegas, and they were stopped, the light turned yellow, and he turned. While he was turning, a motorcycle came 100 miles an hour around the person that was stopped at the light and hit our car, our delivery driver. It wasn't my store, it was a franchise store, and it hit him as he was turning left. The witness in the car across the street, great witness. This motorcycle came faster than I was like it was an incredible witness. We prepared years for this case. It was a multi-million-dollar case. We showed up at the court case in Vegas, and our witness gets out of a limousine with the opponent's attorney out of a limo and goes into the courtroom and changed the whole story. And we were just decimated in the case, and we lost the case. And that was really, really intense. Then we had a class action lawsuit where we paid our managers 25% of the profit of a Jimmy John's store. So the average Jimmy John's store made $161,000, and we paid them a base of $36,000, and they got 25% of $161,000. So they were basically getting $40,500 plus $36,000, or $76,500 a year in pay. Does that make sense? That's what the Jimmy John general managers were making, $76,000 a year. The labor laws changed, and the Obama administration said you got to get paid $52,000 a year. We didn't worry about it at all. We didn't, because our guys were making $76,000 a year. We had no labor complaints. And then we got in a class lawsuit that the bonus money that we paid our employees wasn't real money, it was fake money, and the real money is the salary. The bonus money was discretionary, and as a result, so we got in this big class lawsuit that we went up, and finally, right before the Supreme Court, and we won it for the industry, and it was an industry-saving case on my nickel. I spent $37 million in legal fees over about 12-year period. It was awful. So it's like just the pressure of pressure. I had 3,000 stores open and 3,500 sold. I'm opening 30 stores a month. And we got just the pressure of it all, and then a lawsuit, and then a this and then that. And it's just a grind. It's just a weight. It's not like a thing happens and then you. It's living with this constant pressure. When you squeeze lemonade out of horse shit, you got to squeeze it hard.
And so when did it become a love?
That's a new quote for you. It's going to be on Google now.
So what's your question?
So when did it become a love for the game? Because that's what it sounds like to me.
It was a love for the game until I started spending my time in court all the time. And once I quit, I couldn't. There's no love in the court. There's no love there. There's no personal there. The lawyers are doing it for money. The people are getting way more money. And there's some cases people deserve it, okay? Just so you know, I'm not a jerk off and in any way. There are situations where it's necessary. But it wasn't fun anymore. And it just wasn't fun. I was rich for a long time. I had all the toys, all the M&Ms, all the things, boats and planes and all the stuff and the garbage. It doesn't matter. But at the time, it mattered a lot, and I had it all. And then I said, you know, I want a quality life. I don't want to do it anymore. And so I sold it. And for us, we're an investment for Rourke Capital and now Inspire Brands, and they're opening stores like crazy, and they're doing a great job with the brand, and I'm really happy for them. I was just in Dubai speaking for them at a big international conference and visiting stores and hugging the people. I put a uniform on and showed them how to make a sandwich because I didn't like the way they were doing it, and they videoed the whole thing, thought it was a big deal, you know, because it's a land of kings there. There's like a couple of kings and then a lot of the rest of us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, last question, Randy.
Yeah. So, big honor to be the last question, so thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so one thing I thought might be really interesting to share is I've noticed as scale increases, you often see counterintuitive learnings that didn't make sense at one level of a scale before, and now you're elevated up. It's not immediately clear. I thought maybe it'd be fun if you could share a story about like when you got to a new level of scale and you learned something about the business that you had to do differently than you basically did before.
He asked that what was a situation where my impact was different than it was before, or that it impacted me differently?
No, so like let's pretend when you had 4 stores,
yeah,
like having the guy who would go down and like really figure out how to do the bread and like get that done, and that was the best possible employee for that. And then when you have 50 stores, that is not the best employee because the scale is different.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, when I was done, so I created the buying group, did all the food, built all the backs, and wrote all the operating procedures. I wrote all the marketing. I did all that stuff I did myself. Yeah. So the best part was that my son Fred was born in 2000, and my son Freddie, anyway, he spent 9 weeks in the NICU in the NICU. And we lost him 3 times. But he's great, and he's a monster now. But I remember I was working the shift at Jimmy John's, doing my 8-hour shift at the hospital, and then getting an 8-hour shift of sleep. And my wife and my friend Dave Barr and myself were doing the shifts. I was doing the Jimmy John shift and the kid shift, and Dave Barr was just a friend doing an 8-hour shift, and then my wife was doing an 8-hour shift with Freddie at the NICU. And I said to myself after Freddie came out of the NICU and Freddie came home, I'll never work in the sub shop ever again. And I made sandwiches, or I did a little this or that, but that was it for me. I was done. I graduated from sandwiches. And then in the end, every Wednesday I cut and tasted and photographed and made notes on every single food product in the entire Jimmy John's store, because manufacturers play with ingredients and they play with water and they play with stuff. So anyway, I did that all the time, but every day I also wanted to know what was the longest delivery I had today, delivery time, and did we solve every single customer complaint today? And so so that was what I was focused on at the end, as what was my longest delivery time, and then I just there was stuff like. Every 6 weeks, I had what were called business coaches, and every business coach had 25 stores. So I had about 150 business coaches, and we ranked them, the business coaches, from 1 to 150. And every 6 weeks, they would all come into my office, and they would come in, and we would rank them and how their 25 stores performed, rank them and how they performed amongst the team. And then if they raised themselves 2 bars and kept themselves for 2 periods in that position or above, they got $1,000. Anybody that was in the number 1 position got $5,000. We did before and after pictures, and then the whole team would vote on the top 10 before and afters, and they got $1,000 cash. Like, that was stuff that I just love to do. I love to catch people doing things right. I love to feel my operators, give them the tools they need to do their job. And so that's what I was doing at the end. Is I was like an old man. I was like Dave Thomas, just having a good time, just high-fiving people. And then I had the yang to that was those damn court cases. Yeah. So the yin was the love, and the yang was the court. And I'm like, I'm out. I got enough.
So like safe to say you kind of took your deep experience from being in the business, really understanding it. You kind of elevated yourself to a level to inspect people on a set of key metrics?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And 14 of 17 department heads when I sold came from the sub shop. And we paid out $188 million to those 17 people when we sold. So they all became multimillionaires, and you know that's cool. They all came from the sub, 14 of 17. You know,
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Another thing that he shares in common with my favorite people, a lot of them are in here who are super successful, is they always sincerely root for others to win.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for coming.